makes sense to me that one of the greatest challenges we have, one of the more profound spiritual practices that we can engage in, happens not on the cushion or in the synagogue on Friday night or Saturday morning or in Yom Kippur. It isn't found necessarily in all the places where we might look for it. But it's a simple gesture, a simple moment in consciousness and in our daily living that more than anything that we will look back on in our lives and note as the sum total of how we grew and how we evolved, how we strengthened, how we became the human beings that we were meant to become. More than anything, we will look back at moments where everything in us, everything that we thought we knew about ourselves, surprised us. We were surprised by our capacity to rise up, to meet a moment, to meet a challenge, to meet a difficulty or an obstacle with a force, with a power that we didn't know we had, although on some level we did. Those moments, the sum total of the moments where we are called upon to meet our fear, to meet our vulnerability, to meet our exhaustion, to meet our despair, our despondency with something, right? Those are the moments, right, that make for evolution. Those are the moments that make for greatness. Those are the moments that make for growth. Those are the moments. And you can't plan for it in a way. You can prepare, but that's part of the work. But it's almost impossible to create a continuum or a situation artificially constructed in which the thing that you are to become presents itself. And more often than not, I don't know if this is true for you, in my experience, this happens frequently, is that I'm in the situation, I'm in the challenge that I've been working on in various spiritual modes, in various therapeutic modes, or in various ways that we support one another, or support ourselves to become stronger, to become more available, to become more human, to become, to become this mode of becoming. And I find myself in a situation where there's a little witness going, this is it, right? This is it. This is the moment that you've been working towards, right? That was just a dress rehearsal. Now this is it. This is really happening. It's really happening, right? Anybody know that moment? And there's a part of you that's saying, where do I draw from? I need something. I need some strength. I need some capacity, some power, so that I don't lose what could be accrued if I rise to meet this moment, because it won't come back again exactly the same way, or when it does, I won't really know how to make it happen, so it'll be a surprise again. And here we are. This remarkable chance that arises that we've spoken about so frequently over the last decade and a half in our synagogue as the fulcrum of human development, of human existence, of consciousness and existential growth and expansion and unfolding, happens in these moments where the grain of sand, right, that irritant becomes the pearl, because that's the point. It's there, and you're saying, I need help. Here it is. Here's this moment. Here's this kind of daily, weekly, monthly, annual crisis point that I was preparing for, but here it is. We talked about it a couple of years ago. If you remember, in the synagogue, we spoke about staying in the room. Remember Young Frankenstein? Remember that? Right? Right? Whatever I say, whatever I do not open this door. Do not open the door. Right? The great, great moment. Monster roars and we run. Hello, beautiful. Hello, handsome. I should actually say, hello, handsome. When I think about the wisdom of the Torah, when I think about the stories of our people, when I think about the weekly repetition and the annual repetition of stories of such mythical power, the bedrock of our world, shaped by these stories, and in their minutia, the beauty in the details of each and every verse and each and every moment, doesn't in any way, shape, or form, right, accurately describe the macro movement of these stories. And the macro movement of these stories is a simple message, which is things that we don't finish call out to us for completion. Things that we don't finish call out to us spiritually, socially, existentially, spiritually, familial, the elements of our living reality that are not completed in a way that is a full completion, a full resolution of those energies will come back to visit us repeatedly. And secondly, like other great mythologies, the hero's journey, the hero's success will pivot on a critical moment. And lastly, that if the hero doesn't learn this lesson, and if the family doesn't learn this lesson, if the society doesn't learn this lesson, it will continue to appear. When I think about the story of Isaac and his two children, Esau and Jacob, and I think about the story of, right, the story of stories, the great deceiver Jacob who deceives his brother Esau. The story is well known to all of you. It's lessons about the intuitive power of Rebecca, right? The story of Rebecca, Isaac's wife, and Esau and Jacob's mother, who is in existentially and physically in pain in the beginning of tomorrow morning's Torah reading, who has a vision, a prophecy of two nations that are at war in her womb. The knowing of Rebecca, because Rebecca, and like other women in the Bible, Rebecca knows, right, knows her children better than the father, Isaac, knows his children. When you think about this story and all of the moral lessons that can be gleaned both in defense of Jacob or not, in defense of Rebecca or not, for those of you who are not familiar with the story actually begins and ends with one moment in the beginning of the narrative, a moment that, right, deserves to be looked at. After these two brothers, twins, are born to Rebecca, the children grow up very quickly. In verse 27 of chapter 28, we're told the typology of these two children. Esau is a hunter. He knows the field, the man of the field. And Jacob is a simple Ishtam, a simple person who's a tent dweller, these archetypes. And the story then tells us that one day, Jacob is busy making stew. And this Esau character comes in from the field, and we're told, V'hu ayef, he's tired. Vayomer Esav el Yaakov, and Esau says to Jacob, please give me from that soup, for I am exhausted. Ayef anochi. And Jacob says to him, please, he says to him, today sell me your birthright. Vayomer Esav, hine anochi olech lamut. Lama zeli bechora. Behold, I am about to die. Why would I need a birthright? Vayomer Yaakov, okay, so swear it to me. Vayimkor et bechorato leYaakov. Now, the story's usual critique is that what kind of figure is this Jacob character? An opportunist. His brother is hungry, he comes from the field. But the story doesn't want us to stop there. The story actually wants to tell us a different story. It wants to tell us a different lesson, a different moral. Now, Jacob gave him from this lentil soup, this nizid adashim vayochal, he ate it vayesht, vayakam, in a series, a flurry of verbs. The Torah will tell us very deeply how this is relevant for me and for you. He ate, he drank, he got up, he walked, and he threw away. He treated with reckless abandon his bechorah, his birthright. The rest of the story will be even more complicated, more deception. And later on in the story, after Jacob will finally not only take the birthright, but the blessing as well from Esau, Esau will cry out and scream in not unjustified anger and pain. How could he deceive me these two times? But when one reads that part of the story later on, one forgets this moment, this non-deception moment, this moment where an archetypal character, an individual, was exhausted and sold away his birthright. I'll tell you something. It isn't hard to feel not only a feeling of sympathy and sadness for the Esau character, but a profound identification with Esau's character when one realizes how often we are in a similar situation to Esau. How easy it is, right, to read this as just a story about one character and not read it as a story about all of us. When we are tired, when we are exhausted, when we come in from the field, when all we can think about is feed me, when all we can think about are Maslow's lowest level of survival, what need have we for our quote-unquote birthright? A pivotal moment in this character's development hinges on his ability to access, in this moment, an awareness that this is a test, and it's only a test, Esau. If this were real, Esau, a public service announcement needs to come through the Bible into Esau's ears and say, don't sell it. Take a breath. You're going to be okay. Make a good choice, Esau. And then when Esau has gone down the wrong path, when understandably exhausted as he is, maybe Jacob should not have made this deal with him. Later on, when he realizes what has transpired, if he can own his participation in this story. At the end of this wonderfully dramatic story, Esau walks away, angry, dejected, hating the world. He has no agency in the story. He doesn't see his own complicity. He doesn't see his heroic moment lost. And so here we are. Here I am. Here all of us have been for this last 90 minutes. At the midway point of our service today, when we put up who is here, I could not help but see the word exhaustion growing and growing and growing. Ki ayef. We're tired. We're tired. And when we're tired, it's hard. It's hard not to sell the birthright away. It's hard to make good decisions and have fewer regrets. It's hard. It's hard to recognize that we were tired and that we made the wrong decision. It's hard to continue to do the work of checking inside with where we were agentic, where we are responsible, where we might improve, where we might find power to keep looking for the lost object that we are. To trust and hope that as the days grow shorter and the light grows dimmer, that we have what it takes to choose for the sake of what is most wholesome, what is most just, what is most efficacious, to find that reserve without which it is very difficult not to sell what is most important for a bowl of soup. But the Torah is emphatic. The Torah is emphatic The Torah is emphatic in its recognition that were we not to do that work, it'll just keep going on and on. In Jacob's own character, if he doesn't do that work, it'll keep going on and on. Esau and Jacob have to reconcile. And in fact, one vision of the Messianic era in our tradition is when Jacob and Esau, these two brothers, locked in this struggle from the moment that they were conceived, that these two brothers will find a way to be at peace. Finding a way to be at peace at this moment with yourself, with wherever you are. How might you make better decisions in moments where that decision will catalyze you and those around you to even greater levels of justice, of love, of compassion, of goodness? That's the most profoundly simple spiritual work that we will ever do. And so it begins with trying to find ways to be less tired, to self-care, making choices so that we can make better choices so that we might make better choices. And it also involves taking responsibility for the choices that we make that are influenced by a short-sightedness or by an old pattern or by something that got in the way. This is the work that I felt called to share with you, that I think all of us, to some degree or another, can identify with in this Esau character. I can imagine some of you tomorrow morning or wherever you are screaming through, right, the Zoom room saying to Esau, "Don't do it, brother, don't do it," right? Don't do it. And I can also imagine, as Maya said to us earlier tonight, can well imagine that still small voice inside of you saying the same thing tonight and tomorrow and every day of this week. The divine looking for us, inviting us to take a breath, to take more space, to act from a place of compassion, from a place of strength. So I bless each and every one of you tonight. Let Shabbat hold you so that you are less tired. Let Shabbat give you some space tonight. Let Shabbat invite you into an accessing of power so that you might make better choices.